adlaw! Welcome to Season 3 of Pilipinx in Wellness. I'm your host, Cheryl Samson Ramirez. Following our last episode on House Dance and Health with Jardy Santiago, this month we're bringing you a special in-house episode with our social media strategist, Kathleen Torio, who we also know as Kat, teaming up with me to bring you all the why to wellness. You know, Kat, I've been thinking about this episode for a while now. I've been wanting to share our origin story with the community and why we launched Pilipinx in Wellness. The significance behind our logo, our topics, our guests, and truthfully our intentions. We can't wait to share all of this with you. For this episode, I'd like to bring in my co-host, Kat Torio. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, my name's Kathleen. Thanks for having me.
So Kat's normally behind the scenes as our social media strategist. So all the posts that you normally see on social media, she's helping to post and promote. So we're glad that you're able to join us for this one, Kat.
Thank you. I've been having a lot of fun just, editing some clips for you guys to see.
Well, so since you edit, Kat, and you know that with our format, we always like to open with our lineage. So start us off with telling our community, where is your family from in the Philippines and where are you currently streaming from?
So my family is from Dagupan City in the Philippines.
Both sides of your family?
Yes. How about you? Where is your lineage from?
So my dad's side, he's from a province called Capiz. It's funny when you say it in the Philippines, they're known for the Aswangs. So the folklore story of the women that they detach their upper body in the middle of the night and they fly around to suck fetuses out of babies. It's also known as the Manananggal in the Tagalog region or in Luzon, but so whenever I tell my folks that I'm from Capiz, they're usually like, oh my god, that's where the Aswangs are from, and then I joke and tell them I'm Aswang too. But that's where my dad's from, so it's an area called Capiz on the island of Panay. He's from a town called Mambusao in that province. And then, the historical part of it is indigenous people there are the Hiligaynon people. So the dialect is a mix of Hiligaynon and Ilonggo. So in the Visayas. And then on my mom's side, she's from Mindanao. So she's from this province called Misamis Occidental. And she was born in this town called Clarin in Misamis Occidental. It's northwest of Mindanao. And she grew into school in the city called Oroqueta. And the dialect that they speak in their town is Cebuano, because it's also close to Cebu. And the indigenous people in that area are the Subanon people. They were known as river dwellers, and there's a story that when the Spanish came, they fled to the mountains in that area. But my mom's also half Chinese, so I have carried on those features, and so yeah, that's where my family's from. They're from. I always say that I'm from South Central because my mom's from the South, and then my dad's from the Central region. So technically, that's true.
Have you been to the Philippines? Have you visited?
I have. I've been to both sides of my mom and my dad's side in the Philippines. Yeah, they're both distinct and different, and I'm happy that I still have family in both areas. Have you been, Kat?
I've been a couple of times. I've been in 2014 when I was 17, and it was so cool seeing where my family came from. One fact that I do know from the Dagupan is that I think they're known for the bangos fish. So
Ooh, I
yeah,
love bongos.
yeah. It was pretty cool.
Where are you streaming from, Kat?
I'm streaming from Temecula, California. How about
Nice.
you? Where are you streaming from?
I'm in Echo Park, so it's a neighborhood in LA, Los Angeles, and this is Tongva territory, so the indigenous people that reside here still are like the Tongva people and the Kizh people.
Where did Filipinx in wellness come from? Like, how did it start? What's the story?
So in March of 2021, during the pandemic, there were a lot of things that we were facing, right? There was the height of the Black Lives Matter movement. There were a lot of Asian hate crimes that were targeting our community. And then a lot of us were grieving the loss of family and friends from COVID. So during that time in March of 2021, there was this app called Clubhouse. So we started on Clubhouse since it was this app that was created as a social outlet for people that were looking to connect because a lot of us were isolating and quarantining at home. And actually, I met the other co-founder, Rianda Los Reyes, in the Kaba alumni room. So I I'm an alum from UC Irvine, and she her husband also went to UC Irvine with me. So we were all in this Kaba alumni room that Jason Lustina of SoCal Filipinos created to get us all there and to just kind of have us reunite and catch up. So it was fun. We were in that room one night, and then he started asking us what we thought about the Asian hate crimes that were going on. And we were talking also a lot about how we were grieving, and we were concerned even with our nurses that were frontline workers. So from that spawned Pilipinx and Wellness. Rianne and I wanted to open up another room to just talk about wellness within our culture, because at the time there were so many things that were compounded, right? We were thinking about keeping our elders safe. We were grieving the ones that we were losing. We were concerned with our friends and family members that were frontline workers in hospitals. We were also, a lot of us were allies with the Black Lives Matter movement. And so we were realizing that we just needed this forum to talk about what we were doing, like how we were feeling in the realm of wellness, but also share resources with folks that might be needing it. So we basically did our whole first season in Clubhouse, and most of those episodes, unfortunately, were not recorded because Clubhouse wasn't recording at that time. And it was pretty cool because we had different people come in from all over the world, from Australia, from Hawaii, from Canada, the East Coast, from Europe, just talking with us and having conversations with us. But I also personally wanted to launch Pilipinx and Wellness because I was also at the time influenced by this Native American couple that was out of Arizona called Welfare Culture. That's the name of their site and their movement pretty much. And it started by Thosh Collins and his wife Chelsea Luger, and they were just doing some amazing stuff for like Native Americans here. They were doing their podcast. They had launched a blog. Right now, they have this book around wellness for like throughout the Native American community, and they speak at conferences and everything, and talk about health and wellness. And I just was inspired that I wanted to launch something also for our community. And then another layer to that was I had a good friend, Soraya Medina. She was Filipino and Puerto Rican, and she had passed of breast cancer that year in December of 2021. And so that was a huge loss in our community because Soraya did a lot of community advocacy. She was always at the marches and the protests. She basically did a lot of education around food sustainability, the quality of food, the use of pesticides and chemicals in the home. And so there wasn't really anyone after her for a while that was doing that work. And so I felt a call after she had passed to continue her advocacy because I know she was wanting to bring so much of that work and education into our community. And so I thought about how can I go about this in my own journey from what I've done for wellness practices, but also as a licensed clinical social worker. So, I had a lot of different health like problems like eczema, or I have this post nasal drip cough, and I always like went to different people, and a lot of them were Filipino, from acupuncturists to massage therapists. I sought therapy during the pandemic, and I wanted to share my process in some way with our larger community. So that was how the whole podcast was born. In December of 2022, we transitioned it to a podcast format. And then early on, our hosts were Safo Theologo and Ryan Loren, who came through SoCal Filipinos. And I think that was also around the time that you joined us, Kat. Our first episode on the recorded podcast was with Safo and Melissa. They talked about their East Asian medicine practices and how our community can use that. And then Ryan and Safo eventually moved on to pursue their own interests and practices. And we transitioned from having live streams to recorded sessions. So now we're in our third season with 23 recorded episodes online. And we have 146 subscribers on YouTube. And I feel like our momentum's strong. So what about you, Kat? How did you find out about Pilipinx and wellness? And I'm curious, what got you interested in helping us out?
I found out Pilipinx and wellness through Jason Lustina, the founder of SoCal Filipinos, and I was volunteering with them a little bit, and he texted me one day and was like, "Hey, are you interested in helping out Cheryl? She does a wellness podcast." And I was like, "Oh, cool. Why not hop on this wellness podcast?" It's amazing because like it's not really, or maybe a few, but in the aspect of wellness, there hasn't been much wellness podcasts in like the Asian community, and that's so cool because we're able to relate that in the eyes of the Asian community, and just seeing so much content about what you guys do in the Filipino community of wellness, and there's a lot.
Oh, yeah. There's so many topics and there's so many more that we're excited to bring. Tell our community where you graduated from
Oh, I graduated from UC Riverside.
and what'd you major in.
I majored in English. I got a bachelor's in English in 2021. I had a hard time finding out what I wanted to do with that. I thought I was gonna be a professor, but I'm just not great at teaching. I think I'm more of a storyteller. I kind of use English as a a way for me to, I guess, be a writer. I think I would like to be a writer. So that could be grant writing, working with different nonprofits, and that could also be writing a book. I know one day I do want to be an author.
What do you want to write about?
I guess I just want to write about my experience living in this world, first generation Filipina, and I guess what I experience. And I also want to include like lessons that I learn and yeah.
I mean, I guess it's perfect that you're into storytelling, right? Because that's what we do on the podcast. Uh, also I wanted to mention, some people have asked us also why we call ourselves Pilipinx in wellness. So the purpose behind that, because everything that we do on this podcast is intentional. And the purpose behind that is to be inclusive. So Pilipinx in Wellness is a podcast that we hope to be inclusive of our global diaspora, not just in the US, but we know that our people are the biggest export of the Philippines and that they all go outwards to different countries to find ways so they could financially support their families back home. And so in the Philippine alphabet, there is no F sound. And so purposefully we say Pilipinx to be inclusive of our people in other countries where they don't use the sound of F. It's not a Western, I guess, like sound for them. And then also the X to be inclusive of our community, our non-binary, our trans community, because we also accept and welcome their experiences on the platform. So I wanted to answer that's why we use the term Pilipinx.
That's so awesome that you guys put or decided to use the X, because I feel like this podcast is made for all identities and it welcomes.
No, for sure. We want to be able to capture the diverse experiences of our community. We know that not everybody might have the same beliefs, and so that's why we provide an array of different wellness practices and lived experiences, because that's really our community, right? We have folks in our community that have different belief systems, different religions, different spiritual beliefs, different class systems, different upbringings. And so all of those we find are valid because it's telling of who our community is. And I mean, we're an archipelago of a multitude of islands, and with that comes different dialects. With that comes different beliefs and different upbringings. And so we want to make sure that we include as many of those viewpoints as possible, even if I don't agree with them.
I respect that, yes.
There's something to learn from every experience, I think, right?
Yes. I want to talk about the logo. Obviously, there's a lot of meaning to it, and it's very unique and original. Who designed it? What does it mean?
So I want to thank our designer, my spouse, my other half, Richie Ramirez, for designing the logo. And he's a really talented individual, and I'm glad that I could tap into that resource. But the logo itself is a lotus. So within the world of wellness, you see a lot of lotuses, right? But this one in particular was a special one because the colors of the lotus resemble the lotus that is found in a lake called Lake Cebu. It's found in Mindanao, It's the home of the Taboli and the Ubo people. And this lake is in the provinces of Sultan Kudarat. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Kudarat and South Cotabato. So I was just mesmerized by how beautiful the lake was. I hope that someday I get to see these lotuses in person. And I really wanted to mimic the appearance of that, especially because my mom's side is from Mindanao. I wanted to pay tribute to something near and dear while also honoring the indigenous existence of the people who reside there, but also the ecosystem that thrives there. So we also incorporated the buaya, the crocodile teeth, on our leaves. If you look close at the logo, you'll notice the sketch of the crocodile teeth. And that basically is taken from symbols from our traditional tattooing that represents one of our ancient protectors, the Philippine crocodile, the buaya. And for that, I made sure that I wanted to do it right and consult Lane Wilkin, who's one of our cultural practitioners. He practices batok, traditional hand tap tattooing from the Philippines. He's based out of Las Vegas, and I wanted to make sure it captured what we wanted to convey. So the lotus is inside of the teeth if you look at the logo, because it signifies the caring, nurturing aspect of the mother crocodile who protects her young by having them climb into her mouth. So that's the folklore and the story behind that. So when you look at our logo, the lotus is inside of the crocodile teeth. And the blacked out triangle within the open triangle conveys the caring, protective aspects. It also includes the spines of the crocodile emerging from the surface of the water. So, all in all, what we're really trying to convey is calling upon our ancestors and making sure that they're guiding us on our wellness journey. So, it's also in some ways a prayer, asking them to protect the wellness of our people in the process, and helping us all heal through maintaining this ancestral connection. So that's all really embedded in our logo as a wellness podcast and as a resource for our community. I don't know about you, Kat, but I think that's pretty deep when you think about it.
Each detail has like an intention and a meaning behind it, and it just goes to show that like this whole podcast is about the people and for the people, and it's all about community and taking care of the community.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's open to allyship too. I also wanted to mention that because sometimes people might get intimidated that it's Pilipinx in wellness and it's only for like Pilipinx or Filipinos. But what we're really trying to do right now is untangle all the different things that have impacted our wellness, whether that be mental, physical, emotional, psychological, financial, right? All these different areas of wellness that impact us uniquely as a community. But eventually, what I hope to strive for is finding parallels with other oppressed people, with other people that have experienced injustice, enslavement, or oppression, or colonialism. Because I think when you start with looking within yourselves and within your community is when you start to actually see that you're more similar to other oppressed people more than you think. I also hopefully hope that eventually we can do more solidarity episodes too and talk about the parallels between our community and other oppressed communities throughout the world.
I would love that. One episode that stood out to me was the Kalayaan episode.
Oh, yeah.
I wrote it down. His name is Kalayaan Mendoza, and he did like episode did he do?
on
Oh,
community safety and awareness.
yeah, the solidarity as mutual protection.
So they're based out of New York, and they also work with the Nonviolence Peace Force as as a job, as an organization, but also teaches a lot of de-escalating techniques, especially amongst conflict, and works a lot with a lot of different communities, from the LGBTQIA plus community, with Asian organizations that have experienced hate crimes, global communities, really. So that was a really good guest to bring on. And I just want to shout out This Filipino American Life as one of our supporters, like colleagues who did this first, because that was actually the podcast where I discovered Kalayan.
I'll have to check out that podcast.
So yeah, I think you'd enjoy it. So, when you're not podcasting or helping out with the podcast, what do you do? Like, what's your day job? What are your hobbies?
Mm, I do a lot of things, and it's like so random. I Okay, so like my day is I like to help my family, so I help them with driving their sons around, so like my cousin, and I like to just go out with my family or my friends, and then I like to read and I like to write. I've been listening to like Christian type stuff. I guess that's like helping me mentally. I've been volunteering with this organization called Kapwa Kabataan, and they are a program for uh, Asian communities for the youth, in which they help spread awareness of mental health education, or like culture, or anything that we experience as an Asian with mental health. And I've been going on walks. I've been going in the gym just for like my own mental peace, but also physically. Yeah. How about you? What do you do for mental wellness, or like any wellness?
What do I do? Well, I'm gonna start off with that I'm a licensed clinical social worker, but also within the realm of education. So I'm in public education, K 12. Won't be able to share what district I'm in, but what I like about my job is that my day job has to do with training school staff, from teachers to campus aides to parents, on positive behavior and restorative practices. So, how to basically build more of a so basically how to build more of a positive climate at the school, how to how to build more trust and rapport with students, between adults and students. And so in a sense, I feel like my day job incorporates wellness. We actually have to incorporate meditation and breathing with adults, so they can be grounded and so they can do their work. And then when I'm not working my like 8 to 4:30 job, then I like to work out. I like to do this like bar exercise, where it's kind of a combination of light weights, it's strength training, low impact strength training. It also incorporates hardcore planks, some Pilates stuff, sit ups, and I feel like doing the podcast itself has inspired me and held me accountable to maintain my own wellness. So thank you all for inspiring me, because it makes me committed to practicing my own wellness practices. I love it, but I love self-care practices. I do things from facials, I get massages like every other month. I like to also take hikes whenever I get a chance, and even Epsom salt baths and napping. I'm a big advocate for resting when you need to. So those are some of the things I do. And also, I'm a registered yoga teacher. So I did my 200 yoga teacher training. So that kind of helps me to understand like the physical wellness realm, and dance every now and then too.
It's a lot.
But I think, Kat, we're at our first half. So it's been great talking with you about our origin story and the why to wellness, which we'll delve into in our second half. So thank you all for joining us for our 6th episode of season 3. I'm talking with our social media strategist, Kathleen Torio. Feel free to take a quick stretch, refill your water or tea. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Baby with the 49 a starter, a pack of now and laters listening to 40 water. Yo, I was just a shorty on a mission just to fit and paid attention to the language and the lyrics. Learning English, it was an introduction to a culture I adore. Since I came to San Francisco at the tender age of 4, I was learning all my lessons through the music. Pardon if my tongue gets twisted, I'm splitting it. So then I sacrificed my native dialect to talking local slang. Hella bay from the beginning, I'm soaking up the game from the culture I adopted when I had to leave my own and survive another continent so far away from home. Learn to pop the slang, kick it with the baddest, for better or for worse, but oftentimes it's problematic. Yo, I could take a hint and play the back if I offend, only the utmost when I bless the paper with my pen.
Hey, make music, come on, good music. Hey, make music, everybody good music. Hey, make music, come on, hey, good music. Hey, everybody, hey, come on.
Used to freestyling when I was in college. I cannot control the words that's coming out my mouth, and it became a problem, but I couldn't stop it. Why you think I like to rap about specific topics? Never had control, my mouth is always on a roll. That goes to show I weaponized my words, yeah, it became so easy. I became a target and a little lost, so I devised a plan to hit them back when they would tease me. So pardon me if my opinion is abrasive. Authenticity is what I speak cause I'm a native, but humble is as humble does, and you ain't humble if you're holier than thou. But you never had to struggle like the people you defending, the ones you organizing, the students in the lecture hall stop infantilizing. Meet me on my level, never turn your nose upon me, cause my story is my story, you can never tell it for me.
Hey, make music, come on, good music. Hey, make music, good music. Make music, good music.
Welcome back to Pilipinx in Wellness. You were just listening to the first part of Good Music featuring Jazz Mafia by Rocky Rivera off of her 2018 album Rocky's Revenge, which was created in collaboration with Women's Audio Mission. For those of you new to Rocky Rivera, she's an MC, journalist, author, and mom from San Francisco. Also a featured artist on the Beat Rock music label. You can help support Rocky Rivera by following her on Instagram at Rocky Rivera, or joining her Patreon community that you can access from her website, rockyrivera.com. You can find her music on streaming platforms like Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube. Shout out to our Pilipinx artists and musicians out there laying down the tracks. Returning from our break, I'm talking with our very own social media strategist, Kat Torio, about the why to wellness.
One question I want to ask you is, why is wellness important to you? Like, what is your why to wellness?
I think I mentioned it earlier in the first half that I feel that as a community, we're a very hardworking community, right? We organize hard. We work hard at our jobs. There's a lot of hardships that we've endured as a community and as individuals. But I think we can also do a better job in our wellness practices. Sometimes we grow up with these values that aren't always bad, but that always puts others before ourselves. And in the long run, when it comes to sustaining our own lives, our own health, a lot of times those things are compromised in the service of others in whatever sector we're in. And I found that for me, to be able to do this work, to be able to be a part of a wellness movement, it's really important to model that and practice that. And so my why to wellness is basically like what they say when you're about to board a flight or when you're about to take off. They always tell you to put on your oxygen mask first before putting on the oxygen mask of the person next to you. And I feel like that's a good analogy of the why to wellness, why I think I'm dedicated to this whole movement of wellness within our community, because it's important for us to also sustain the work that we do, our purpose, by looking at ourselves first and what we can, I think, do better as individuals in the realm of wellness, in the realm of taking care of ourselves, so that we can ultimately take care of our loved ones, of each other. What about you, Kat? What's your why to wellness?
My why to wellness is, I guess, internal happiness or internal peace. Just do anything to have that. And so you practice different wellnesses from mental to physical to spirituality. I just think it's so important because, like you said, you have to take care of yourself in order to help others. And I feel like that is what we're meant to do as humans, is to take care of ourselves but also help others.
And I also want to say, I'm not saying that you should be selfish or you shouldn't stop helping others, because I think that's the beauty of our community, is that we have this collective idea of taking care of each other. But I also think that there are like things that we can do. We can eat better. We can exercise better. We can take care of our mental health better when we were told that that wasn't the priority, so many times. And so I just hope that with Pilipinx and Wellness, I always tell people it's also partly my legacy project, that I hope that it's a podcast and a resource that will exceed me when I'm no longer here, will continue when I'm no longer here. I don't have children of my own by choice, and so in a sense, this podcast, this resource, is what I'm giving birth to be around when I'm not anymore. So I guess you could say this is my gift, my love letter to the community. And I'm glad, Kat, you're on the journey. So we're 23 episodes in and 3 seasons in. Kat, do you have any favorite episodes? Let's make this light, and why? I think you mentioned Kalayaan's episode. Do you have any others?
I like the dance episodes. There's so many of them. I liked how they taught me about the need to move, and that's also very important.
Right? There's so many dancers and creatives in our community.
Yes, yes. Do you have any favorite episodes?
For me, when we were in Clubhouse, one of the most meaningful episodes that we did was this tribute to one of our community members who was a long-term member of and organizer in the Festival of Philippine Arts and Culture, FPAC. It was dedicated to our late Manong Tony Ringor, who spearheaded the seniors village and had this annual vegetable growing contest. And that was my favorite episode. One of them, I really liked it because it was really endearing to bring the community together, to grieve together, which is rooted in also our traditions in the Philippines. And to really hear the impact he made in our community. But I felt really fortunate and blessed to provide that space for our community, but also in honor of Manong Tony, who I was able to volunteer for 1 year, while working with the FPAC, with the Festival of Philippine Arts and Culture and Film Arts. So that one definitely I hold dear. Kat, do you have other wellness podcasts or Pilipinx podcasts that you listen to or follow?
I do not, unfortunately. What are your favorite podcasts to listen to?
I love the Well for Culture podcast that I mentioned earlier. Just listening to how they address wellness in amongst Native American communities. I listen to food podcasts too, I'm not gonna lie. There's one with, I have to look at my list, with Dave Chang, the Dave Chang Show, because I'm a foodie. And there's some other podcasts that I've listened to try to help our own podcasts or help me understand how to go about it. So, like the Mexipino podcast, my cousin introduced me to that. I know Elaine from TFAL introduced me to the Cheat Coders podcast. They're also like a Filipino podcast based in Australia. So it's been kind of cool to like listen to these different podcasts, just kind of hear what our community is doing globally. Kat, what would you like to see next for Pilipinx and Wellness? Are there topics or other guests you want to see within our community on the podcast?
Maybe have more of the youth voices, their perspectives, or what they would like to do in terms of wellness and how they navigate that, because I feel like for me, I would like to know how you guys deal with wellness, or what do you guys do? How about you? What would you like to see for the Filipinx and Wellness episodes or guests?
Well, without giving away what we have coming up, I'd actually want to hear wellness practices, or I would love to hear different wellness types of routines or just hobbies from other countries. So I would love to hear other voices from our folks in New Zealand, in Australia, in Canada, in Europe, and what does wellness look like to them. I think that would be like a really cool, or even in the Philippines. Like I think that would be a really cool perspective or angle to bring into the podcast.
That would be so
cool. So if you're in another country, reach out to us, DM us. We want to hear what's going on over there. As we begin to close, how can our community find you, Kat, if they have additional questions and they want to be involved in our podcast?
Find me on Instagram. It's Kathleen, ITS, KATHLEEN, and then Kristine. Where can we find you from?
Other than the Pilipinx and Wellness social media sites that we both facilitate, you can also follow me on Instagram at Angels Point Yoga. That was my yoga Instagram and also my wellness site that I use to talk about different wellness practices. So at Angels Point Yoga, and any of our Pilipinx and Wellness accounts on Facebook, X, Threads, and YouTube, also on Instagram. So follow and subscribe, folks. Thank you, Kat. This was fun talking with you about the Y2R Wellness. And folks, I'm super grateful to have Kat on as our social media strategist. She's a huge help when it comes to our posts on Instagram. And to our community, look out for our next episode. In October, we're going to have a special collaborative episode with This Filipino American Life host Elaine Dolalas. We're going to be talking about financial wellness and estate planning with lawyer Maribel Zialcita. This episode will air during our Wellness Wednesdays on October 11. As we close, we'd like to acknowledge once again our guest speaker and social media strategist, Kathleen Torio, our graphic designer and beat maker for our opening and closing track, Richie. I'd like to also thank Rocky Rivera for consent to use your track Good Music featuring Jazz Mafia off of her 2018 album Rocky's Revenge, and Beat Rock Music also for your consent to play her tracks. We also would like to thank our advisors, Alison De La Cruz, Rian de los Reyes, and Safo Teologo, our community partners, This Filipino American Life, SoCal Filipinos, and Truck Table, and all of our community members for your shares and support. As always, we'll share more about our guest speakers' offerings on our Instagram stories and highlights for permanent access with any of their upcoming events. Be sure to follow us at Pilipinx in Wellness on Instagram, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and on X at Pilipinx, the letter N, well, followed by the letters and an S. Don't forget to continue to hit the subscribe button on our Pilipinx in Wellness YouTube channel. Thank you always for believing in us. Be well, everyone. Continue to take care of yourselves and each other. Daghang salamat.